Yeah.
We should. Russ always tries to come through Russ Water. Every time I see Russ Water, he does it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you see anything?
Not many people don't know, so I did.
Well, you know, I wanted to commit. Pardon?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna ask you, I mixed up earlier and I forgot. Got her late.
I did, and I'll bring it up when I'm in the discussion. I'll bring you into that. Because it is a question that needs to be answered in this case.
You got it. Yes, ma'am.
Greetings.
Okay. Okay, I'll tell
Yeah.
We would be tired. He said, Mike,
And Wayne, he'd be good with it. Gary'd be good with it.
We can make it a separate meeting if you just move it to
hi, Pat, Chief, nice to meet you. Welcome. Thanks for coming. So who,
Good, how are you?
This place pretty crazy yet?
That's my,
She's on this one.
that's my
Oh, she's on that one. She's on that one.
all encompassing term.
Right.
Oh my.
You can bring your stuff.
This committee's getting shorter.
I'll say, if you didn't, I have an extra copy here. I'll just give you, yeah, well, I printed it out at home, and then it came in the mail.
Right.
So I'll end up.
I don't think mine came in the mail, but I did get an email.
You know, our agenda's usually.
Yeah, well,
It's just not.
let's see here.
It's my first one. So.
What else did I put in this stack? This is at least the agenda and the petition.
Petition for.
Right.
Because you'll want to look at that map. It's the last page.
Right.
Yeah, because there's some interesting questions. There's some interesting questions.
Okay, just slide it in there.
Add that to the city manager.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it.
But even where it's extended out to the road.
Pardon me?
All right,
Even where
that
it's
works.
extended out to the road.
Yeah, well,
You guys ready? Everybody ready? We'll call the meeting to order. Has the roll been taken?
Upon arrival.
First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of May 10th. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at those?
yes.
Is there a motion?
So move
That be approved, presented?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. First, in new business, I'd like to welcome our newest members. Gary Keith is with us today, and our new city manager, Tiffany Phil. Thank you both for being here today. We'll move on to consideration of a petition by Melody Nichols requesting the subdivision of lots or parcels of land situate on Farland Avenue. and that was assigned to committee number 1. Mr. McMunn is here for that. Would you like to give a report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will ask that if you would look at the last page of the petition that is before you with the survey. It's an interesting piece of property in the history of it, and that plays into it. That's the Methodist Church over in Adamston. And that property, as it's shown on that survey, that is that entire triangular portion that you see on the plat, everything that's on there, the church, the parsonage, and then there's some other property that's within the lines. Not only the black line, which is the portion of the property that the purchaser, Melanie Nickel, has agreed to buy. In fact, has already bought it. It has actually been conveyed. So we're sort of the cart's ahead of the horse, if you will, but so be it. There's the survey, and the thing that's interesting is that property and everything within that triangle was conveyed to the Methodist Church 139 years ago. It's been owned there ever since. And we now have, as we have in the past, property that gets developed in the city, then they want to subdivide it, and then there are different buildings on it, different improvements, and when that happens, and I'll give you an example. We had one up on 5th Street Hill up behind WI. There was an apartment building that was on the back end of a residential property. So you've got a building, a home on the front of it, and an apartment building on the back of it. And time passes, people pass, and they want to subdivide it. Somebody wanted to buy the building separate from the house. They came to us and say, subdivide it. We have code requirements that so much of a building has to have so much land with it. So much parking, setbacks, that sort of thing. And when we approve a subdivision, we create, in some instances, we create violations of our code. And we need some direction from the city. City attorney's here, and I'm pleased with that, because that's where some guidance is going to have to come to the city to tell us what to do about that. And I'll give you the example. If you'll take a look at this one, you see the dark lines, which are the part that Melanie is going to buy or has bought the house. And you'll see it's right up against the church building. What, a foot or so apart? Well, you've got setback lines we have created with this new black line that goes between the house and the church. You created a new property line with a setback issue with the existing code. And I've asked Mr. Carr to take a look at this to see if the creation of the subdivision, which is asked for, and the young lady buying is a nice gal, a good person. Her family has a history of doing good works around town, and they doing all the right things. And so she's stepping in here where the church has failed, has gone out of business, if you will, as a church. And she's going to be improving the old parsonage. And as I understand the discussion of what's going on with the church, I'm told that the Shriners are going to buy that. So that may be the truth. That's what I heard at any rate. So you've got something that's been in the community for that period of time. It is cycling, if you will, in its history, and good things are trying to be done with it. But now you've got a subdivision of a lot to get it accomplished. Everybody's doing the right thing. But if we approve this, it seems to me like it's just like others that we have coming before this body. When you do what they ask be done, we create a violation of our code. What do we do about that? And I would readily say we ought to approve Mel's proposal here because the right things are being done. But how can I do that for the city if I'm saying we're going to create a violation of the city code? So someone needs to tell me at least how am I supposed to recommend with respect to this petition? My feeling is that all that's being done there with that property, and I spent some time looking at old plats. The property that is in the checkered, or not checkered, but the dotted area that's a Circle K convenience store there over in Adams. You may, that area has been before this body in 2015 for an approval of that because they leased that, as I understand it, for additional parking. So they came to, the Circle K people, came to planning and zoning for approval of that, and approval was given. So that portion of this property has been before us before. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that if the body would please give some consideration to the issue at hand in some direction, and perhaps if the city council or the code enforcement have comment, they'd be kind enough to give it to us as well.
Sure, appreciate it. Ashley, you have anything to add on?
I got to look at it a little bit. I didn't get a look at it as much as I thought I was going to get to today. But it is in the business district. I didn't get to talk to anybody about what they're actually going to do with the property. It looks to me like they may have done this maybe for financial purposes or whatever. But I know the setbacks in the business district will be a lot less stringent than those in a residential district. So I did see where the line went between the church and the house. That would be a point of concern. And I really don't know how to call that line. I don't know if that's a front setback or a side setback or a diagonal setback. It's just an odd shaped piece of property. That kind of threw me a little bit of a curveball.
Yeah.
But it's still church property. So, and I think it's still going to be used for similar purposes. I don't think the land use will change.
I think the house was sold. That's why the issues come up.
Yeah. I did talk to John some about it. He's going to jump in there too. He may have spoke to him.
I actually did not have an opportunity to speak with the applicant. With regards to the concern on how this would be approved, though, the nonconformity that's being created by the subdivision affects the main principal structure. It's not affecting the lot. So there's nothing wrong with the new lot other than it has this building on it. Well, that building was tied to a church land use. So the religious was a place of worship land uses are kind of unique because we recognize that you're going to have more than just the place of worship. We may have like a gymnasium, other type of event spaces, but it's still all tied to that same land use. The new parcel line, while it creates a nonconformity, it doesn't necessarily impact the use because the sale, I'm a little interested to see how you sell a property without having a plat, but let's assume that it hasn't been fully completed and recorded. As such, it's still the church. It's just
I'm told it has been.
As I said, I don't know how you can sell a property that doesn't exist because it would have to have the subdivision plat for it to be properly recorded and sold. But that's, I'm guaranteed that you are right. It probably was sold. There probably is some method that it's going to be conveyed. But for the purposes now, what staff would recommend is either evaluating it as the church use or providing for a variance based on the uniqueness of the situation. With this one, it would be the finding of fact would be associated with the land use historically being a place of worship.
there is a plat of record. An older one. There's a deed from the Methodist Church of record to Mel.
At this point, maybe it would be best to table it and speak directly with the applicant then, because it does.
I
it
had
seems
spoken
kind
to
of-
the applicant.
Well, have him here, I mean.
Well, I thought she was going to be. But I'd like to go as far down this road as I can. And the fact that she's not here, I can tell you what I've been told. I tell you what I was able to find when I went online. And certainly, we've got computers here. We can go, we can look at the deed. But I did look at that to see, in fact, if there is a deed from the Methodist Church to Mel, and there is. Now, she did not have her plat with her to record it, or she may have tried, I don't know. I think Mary Robinson was involved in the transaction, so, it may have been that they didn't attempt to record that because they didn't have it approved yet. But that's neither here nor there. The issue is what do you do about this kind of situation?
So,
And of course, we're looking at it from her viewpoint. The property being subdivided is not for the church. It's for residential purposes. And of course, the reason the church failed, I think, is because they had a bunch of holes in the roof and it was leaking and they didn't have the money to repair it. At least that was the reference that I had. It just simply got to be too much for that particular congregation.
well, I'll reiterate, the nonconformity is not associated with the land created from the subdivision. It's just created from the use associated in that building on site. On one level, it fixes a problem. If you have a non-religious land use occurring and you have multiple principal structures on the parcel, that's not permitted either. So this does provide for that to be rectified, but based on the conversation, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to provide the application enough justice. And perhaps you all would want to entertain either a motion to table it to get more information, or specifically, we could be evaluating the way to provide you with language for either approval with variance or something like that.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I can connect to the TV real quick. I jump up. I'd like to show everybody a visual of this one, physical connection there.
Will the variance come from zoning appeals?
No, you would be providing a variance from the subdivision regulations. So it was not zoning variance.
I got you.
Now, your ability to do that is because our planning and zoning code and the subdivision ordinance thereof isn't in line with current codes. What would traditionally happen, and what we're going to be going through the process when we revitalize these ordinances, there would be what's called a subdivision and land development ordinance, a SALDO review board. Instances where it would require a variance would therefore go to that board. Depending on how it's made up, it could be the exact same members as the Board of Zoning Appeals, but as it is right now, the ordinance language being so dated allows for the flexibility for the variance from the planning commission.
Chris,
The concern that I have with the separation would take place between two structures. As mentioned earlier, they are very close together. And I'm not sure what the setbacks is, even with the business district, but they are very close together. My concern is this stairwell right here coming off the back of the church building. If you split the difference, new property line is going to be right at the foot of that stairwell. Is that stairwell part of ingress and egress for, emergency evacuation for the church itself? And would creating a separation of the property line right here create a potential future safety hazard for ingress and egress out of the church facility?
Those are all good questions that I unfortunately cannot answer.
I looked at it a little bit. It looks like property line kind of goes cat corner right through there. So,
Yeah, that's why I just look at even if you split the difference, I'll zoom in a little closer.
Yeah.
If you split the difference between the structure and the corner of the church, that's putting it right at the base of the stairwell. If you just split it in half,
Isn't that a safety, and that is a safety
Fire
set of
escape.
stairs right there?
right
Yes,
here.
fire escape.
Yeah.
So then that goes to.
And then that goes on down to ground level, yes.
Correct. So going either direction, if you split the difference,
You got the line going down through the middle of that,
yeah,
yes.
then this is a stairwell essentially going to nowhere. Because this stairwell coming up and the stairwell going below, if it's in control of the house, they could put boxes on, they can store stuff there, they could essentially block the ingress and egress to the church.
Yep, they sure could. Put up a toll, yeah.
Also, made a good comment right there, if the church and the property owner want to enter into some type of right-of-way agreement or something, that would be recorded with this to maintain ingress and egress, that could be a potential solution, but
Can we put that as a condition of the approval that they enter into that agreement?
certainly wouldn't see why not. I mean, I would
so you
recommend
can,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Certainly.
because I agree safety is important, so maybe that's something we should add on to there.
And just for another key point, the Circle K that you mentioned earlier. You can see, so there's the church, you can see the backside of that stairwell.
Yeah, there's your stairwell.
Come back down. The remaining area there is surrounded by the Circle K.
Thanks, Chris, appreciate the visual. Jim, you have anything to add?
Well, I couldn't really understand the detail of what she was trying to do from what I had to look at.
Jim,
Plat.
the entire plat is the Methodist Church over in Adamston. And they have closed. And the Methodist Church sold the parsonage to Ms. Nickel. And she's buying that parsonage, and you see it in the dark black lines. And the new line, which is being drawn through there, is between the church and the home. And that's what you saw the picture
You
of.
say the deed's been recorded?
The surprising thing is, yes, and they went ahead with the transaction, apparently. That's what we discovered. Normally they would be here getting approval of the subdivision and then the recordation of the deed.
Can I reiterate, that's not normally, that's to make it legal.
I think they're gonna sell that property too.
To have a legal subdivision, it has to go through the planning commission.
I understand.
That's what I'm saying, sir, is that,
I understand.
Sounds like they've done it without a clear title.
I can
As a matter of fact, if you look at the plat itself, the surveyor has said that he was not provided with a title certification. But I did see that Mary Robinson was involved in the transaction, and normally she's examining the title. So I did call her. First of all, that's not our job to look out to perfect title or to perfect a survey or anything of that sort. We try to approve what parties want to have done, and I didn't know how to have this kind of problem, which has happened before, have it approached, and if we couldn't deal with the problem generally, so we know what to do when people come in this old city and with older buildings and they want to subdivide, and we've got lines being drawn places. How are we supposed to respond to it? When we get sent out there as a committee to look at it, or what are we to recommend? Well, we may think that what they are doing is a good thing to do and all, but then it violates some code or what have you. So how are we supposed to approach it?
The plat that we're looking at references a plat of survey for the Christ United Methodist Church. It gives a book and page where it's recorded in a plat entitled lot consolidation. It sounds like there's plats already in record.
There are indeed, Jimmy, I can give, I've got copies here. I can show you what they are. They do, as a matter of fact, there is one that separates these other parcels and it actually has a piece on there that looks exactly like this one. But as this surveyor has said, he has considered those as well as gone on the ground and done his own work and produced this plat. But I agree with you with the property being with the same owner for 139 years. The likelihood of having instruments of record and plats already were great. And I was looking for lots of stuff that would help us through this, and there isn't a whole lot.
Anyone else have anything?
I mean, do you need somebody to search it, or, and with what has transpired up to this point, or you've done that?
No, I did. I've not examined the title. That's not planning and zoning's.
I mean, not necessarily examine the title, but just to see what's on record
Mhm.
that could help us.
I have, and what only confuses me a little bit more is the plats that are of record show, for instance, this Monroe, isn't it Monroe Avenue down here at the bottom? It says alley, formerly Monroe Street.
Yeah.
One of the plat that you made reference to shows that as Monroe Street and as a full street. At least at that time, it was still on the plats as a full street of the city of Clarksburg.
It's still
I
there.
don't know whether that's ever been abandoned.
It's still there and it's paved. So I imagine
Well,
it's-
that's an alley, at least according to this guy. But has that been abandoned by the city, or is that a public way?
Public definitely uses it.
Okay,
I may again.
okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a new guy, but comment.
No, that's perfect.
I'm a real estate agent and I look at a lot of things like this and, based on how Clarksburg kind of works, I mean, this being a business district and we're not really creating the problem. We're kind of just letting a problem that was allowed to happen a long time ago just go forward.
And not
I don't see any reason not to approve this today.
To answer some of your questions there, the current parcel, you can see here in blue, is all together, the church and the home,
I'm sorry.
is what's highlighted here in blue. Not shown together. No, there is another parcel right here that has been sold off to a convenience store.
Yeah.
And as you can see, right here, there is right-of-way lines for the alley, which is formerly Monroe Street. And Gary said that is still part of a city right-of-way. It actually even a T coming off of it.
Okay.
Through here. Now, this is a state parcel viewer, and as wonderful as this is, it's not.
Yeah, not
They're
accurate.
not
Yeah.
exact, so things like the overlap of this on the house is not exact,
Well-
but this gives you a rough idea of the layout of the parcels.
Well, yeah, while you have the lines indicated there, what's on them doesn't appear to be a street, if you will. You got two vehicles parked on it there, and then it goes through what, a parking lot here?
Yeah, and I'd say the street is actually located right here. Like I said, these lines are shifted.
Okay,
slightly.
all right.
This is an online overlay.
And that would be why on this plat that was just done, he has swung that out.
Correct.
So he's set that up to match that. You're right. Yeah.
So, did the church own all of that? and sold off.
This whole thing, Jimmy, this entire part is an 1884 conveyance from the
So
church.
now the church has sold
The portion
this
here.
piece to,
Yes, yes, to Miss Nichol, and I'm told that they're gonna be selling.
So what's she trying to consolidate then? What is she consolidating?
She's just severing that piece.
This is-
That's creating a new parcel.
Excuse me, guys, I have a question.
Oh, well, it's more of a comment because John and Ashley said by putting this through with a variance and then a condition, it's making the best of a situation like Gary mentioned already exists. So I don't see a problem with this either. At least it's a parcel that's not going to become dilapidated or not taken care of. So I understand, like we want to understand the history, but I think the application is a good one because it's helping maintain the property that exists so it won't become a bigger problem. So I think based on that, maybe
That house hasn't been vacant for a good while, so this is a positive thing.
it is a positive thing. So I think we probably have all the information we could possibly have to make a well-informed decision on this.
What is the language we use, roughly? The language you use that says this isn't a violation of the setback.
Jim? Yeah.
That we're aware of the variance, right?
We'd have to approve a variance.
And we're
The
aware
other
of
thing
the
I
variance.
want to point out is they're both still zoned B2. And it does appear to be a split. Usually when you got one B zone property above another B zone property, there is no side or rear setback. There's usually just a front. But this irregular lot was what I was really struggling with, because what do you call it when you're looking at both pieces at once? Do you call it front setback or rear setback?
It's definitely the
Side
front.
setback.
It's definitely the side, because the front is far away.
Yeah. So if it's a side setback, in chapter 13, there is no side setback.
Do they intend to record the plat after the fact, maybe?
I assume they did, but I can't, that's an assumption. Because it was filed with the petition with the city.
I mean, so are they just looking for a stamp from planning and zoning to?
I presume that is
Like I
exactly.
said,
I'd say they went ahead and did it and then realized they needed it, would be my guess.
That's right.
The only reason I wonder is because they won't record a plat over there without a stamp.
Yeah, we're not supposed to, but it seems like maybe they did.
They don't very often, I don't see it happen.
Would that not be like?
no, they can't record it unless it comes before the planning commission. Because they want those minutes to go with it.
Right.
Front side and rear.
Based on all this, would you like to make a motion, Mr. McMillan?
We'll try to get the right language in that says that that's all right. Go to it.
Is that the side?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve, the request, with the condition that a right-of-way easement be included in the deed to provide acceptable ingress and egress to the rear door of the church, as well as approving the variance for the setback concern if there is a setback violation, as a part of this.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next item on the.
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Appreciate the in-depth research. Next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration of committee assignments. We generally have 3 committees, correct, Annette? And Chris had brought to my attention some possible duties of another committee. Chris, if you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'd like for either one of the committees to be assigned or the creation of a committee to go through and do a comprehensive code review. Upon looking over city code, the vast majority of city code was last updated in 1969. Very little has been looked at or reviewed since then. So I would like to see a committee put together, or one of the three existing committees be assigned to meet on a weekly basis with the city, code enforcement, with the engineer, with development planning there to see what we can do about going through A to Z, front to back in order, and do a comprehensive review of the city code to see if anything needs to be updated, changed, and bring any of those updates or changes that the committee may conclude to the board for vote to be then recommended on the council to make official.
I appreciate that. Does anyone have any discussion on that?
The only thing I would bring up is that during the comprehensive plan, and Wayne may know about this, the company that did that also wanted to do the zoning. They just wanted to complete the comprehensive plan first. So I don't know how that works with this.
And I can add to that we're talking about redoing the zoning, so that I would actually ask you guys to table that until we discuss with code and our city attorney, what's the best way to go about that? Because that is on my
Well, I think that
list.
would be coming very soon, right? Because they want to do as soon as the
Yes.
comprehensive plan was complete.
Yeah, so before we task one group with doing code, when we might be hiring it out or it might be done with administration, I would like to speak to our attorney and speak to staff to see what the recommendation is moving forward. We just don't want everybody working on something and it creates more work than it needs to be.
Right.
I think that's a good idea because with the new comprehensive plan, I mean, a lot of these, if there's going to be code changes, they have to be tailored towards this new comprehensive plan. Because if you're going to try to enact some of those things in a comprehensive plan, or even make a strategic plan from the comprehensive plan,
Yes.
you need to make sure that your codes are, coincide with that. So.
Well, not only that, when we talk about the rebranding, creating those guiding principles, the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan and the zoning and compliance all need to line up. So it's going to be a little bit complex.
When that is set up, though, I do think it would be smart to have a committee work with them when they start that process.
Agreed.
I mean, I agree with Chris too, because I think the more people you have involved in that, I think, the more efficient and effective it's going to be, the outcome's going to be. So, but I think it should be something that you take leadership on as for developing the game plan of what that's going to look like, what that sort of format and infrastructure of that group is going to look like, that has pretty much, attainable goals and objectives of what they want to do.
Zoning definitely needs work.
Yeah.
That does need to be a priority.
Would it be best for the committee to start out working alongside the city manager to select that best path?
I would prefer to bring it forward to staff first, and specifically our attorney, to see how he would like to do. I also have to do some investigation. I would like to call the company that did the comprehensive plan and find out what their plan was moving forward, so I have a full understanding.
Parks too, because they want a lot more money.
Exactly. So I do have some investigation to do, I think, before it would be prudent to move forward.
We can hold off on that for now and then revisit that at a later date. So we've broken it up into three committees, what Annette and I had spoken about. Committee number one, Mr. McMunn, Ms. Parsons, Mr. Mann. Committee number two would be Mr. Lane, Mr. Fazzini, and Mr. Keith. And committee number three, Mr. West, Mr. Brown, and myself. So if that's okay with everybody.
I don't put the council, he's a council rep and the city manager, I don't put him on the list.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of other duties.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll give you a break on
Well,
that
thank
one.
you. Appreciate that.
So we can go ahead with that moving forward. If I'll make that motion, someone second it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are our new committee assignments. No other new business. I see Kim and Kurt are here. Anything to add? checking in. All right, thank you. Tiffany, anything we need to be aware of coming up?
No, sir.
All right, appreciate you being here. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So,
Move, second. All in favor?
uh,
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.